YouTube, along with NBC, blocks many of the videos that we post and have posted in the past, and it's almost like every day now they're coming up with some excuse of saying, well, you can't post this even though you could, and you can't do this although you could. And that's kind of like our Constitution. You know, they bend it, distort it, tear it up when they want to, and say, well, you can't do that, that's not what the Constitution meant, and on it goes. But this is just small excerpts of the most key things that Edward Snowden said in the video.
Been shown to keep us safe, but cost us liberties and freedoms that we don't need to give up, and our Constitution says we should not give up. The definition of a security state is any nation that prioritizes security over all other considerations. I don't believe the United States is or ever should be a security state. If we want to be free, we can't become subject to surveillance. We can't give away our privacy. We can't give away our rights. We have to be an active party. We have to be a part of our government. And we have to say there are things worth dying for. And I think the country is one of them. The problem was, as time went on, as I rose to higher and higher levels in the intelligence community, as I gained more and more access, as I saw more and more classified information at the highest levels, I realized that so many of the things that we're told by the government simply aren't true. Sport. They might know what your habits are. Where were you in the world when you checked this score? Do you check it when you travel, or do you check it when you're just at home? They'd be able to tell something called your pattern of life. When are you doing these kind of activities? When do you wake up? When do you go to sleep? What other phones are around you when you wake up and go to sleep? Are you with someone who's not your wife? Are you doing something? Are you someplace you shouldn't be, according to the government, which is arbitrary, you know? Are you engaged in any kind of activities that we disapprove of, even if they aren't technically illegal? And all of these things can raise your level of scrutiny, even if it seems entirely innocent to you, even if you have nothing to hide, even if you're doing nothing wrong. These activities can be misconstrued, misinterpreted, and used to harm you as an individual, even without the government having any intent to do you wrong. The problem is that the capabilities themselves are unregulated, uncontrolled, and dangerous. When I think about an instance that really just struck me as, oh my God, we can do this, and that we can do it to anyone, was that people at NSA, analysts, can actually watch people's internet communications, watch them draft correspondence, and actually watch their thoughts form as they type. As you write a message, you know, an analyst at the NSA or any other service out there that's using this kind of attack against people can actually see you write sentences in the backspace over your mistakes and then change the words and then kind of pause and think about what you wanted to say and then change it. And it's this extraordinary intrusion, not just into your communications, your finished messages, but your actual drafting process, into the way you think. It's the dirtiness of the targeting. It's the dirtiness of the way these things are being used. It's the lack of respect for the public, because, and the lack of respect for the intrusiveness of surveillance. I actually did go through channels, and that is documented. The NSA has records. They have copies of emails right now to their Office of General Counsel, to their oversight and compliance folks, from me, raising concerns about the NSA's interpretations of its legal authorities. Now, I had raised these complaints not just officially, in writing, through email, to these offices and these individuals, but to my supervisors, to my colleagues, in more than one office. I did it in Fort Meade, I did it in Hawaii, and many of these individuals were shocked by these programs. They had never seen them themselves. And the ones who had went, you know, you're right. These are things that are really concerning, and these aren't things that we should be doing. Maybe we're going too far here, but if you say something about this, they're going to destroy you. Do you know what happens to people who stand up and talk about this? So I reported that there were real problems with the way the NSA was interpreting its legal authorities. And the response, more or less, in bureaucratic language, was you should stop asking questions. And these are recent records. This isn't ancient history. One of my, I would say one of my final official acts in government was continuing one of these communications with a legal office. And in fact, I'm so sure that these communications exist that I've called on Congress to write a letter to the NSA to verify that they do. Write to the Office of General Counsel and say, did Mr. Snowden ever communicate any concerns about the NSA's interpretation of its legal authorities? These are things that no individual should empower themselves to really decide, I'm going to give myself a parade. But neither am I going to walk into a jail cell, serve as a bad example for other people in government who see something happening, some violation of the Constitution, and think they need to say something about it. But it's also uninformed, because what has been laying against me are not normal charges. They're extraordinary charges. We've seen more charges under the Espionage Act in the last administration than we have in all other administrations in American history. The Espionage Act provides anyone accused of it of no chance to make a public defense. You are not allowed to argue based on all the evidence in your favor, because that evidence may be classified, even if it's exculpatory. And so when people say, why don't you go home and face the music, I say, you have to understand that the music is not an open court and a fair trial. I would leave advising the president to his advisors. I wouldn't presume to place myself on the level to be able to suggest what his course of action should be. I think that's a decision that he'll weigh and decide based on what he believes would serve the public interest, and I think that's proper and appropriate. I think it can be both. I think the most important idea is to remember that there have been times throughout American history where what is right is not the same as what is legal. Sometimes to do the right thing, you have to break a law. And the key there is in terms of civil disobedience. You have to make sure that what you're risking, what you're bringing onto yourself, does not serve as a detriment to anyone else. It doesn't hurt anybody else. And if you're volunteering yourself to be used as a negative example, if you're volunteering to spend a lifetime in prison, rather than to spend a time in prison, a short period where you'll come out, you'll advocate, you'll emerge stronger, and be able to inspire other people to resist these policies, are you doing good or are you doing bad? I don't think there's ever been any question that I'd like to go home. I mean, I've, from day one, said that I'm doing this to serve my country. I'm still working for the government. Now, whether amnesty or clemency ever becomes a possibility is not for me to say. That's a debate for the public and the government to decide. But if I could go anywhere in the world, that place would be home. That have happened within our government in the same period. Do you think our nation has changed since September 11th? Have our policies changed? Has the manner of our government changed? Has civil engagement with the government changed? Have our politics changed? Are things radically different in terms of partisanship? There have been radical changes within our government. I do. You know, I think patriot is a word that's thrown around so much that it can be devalued nowadays. But being a patriot doesn't mean prioritizing service to government above all else. Being a patriot means knowing when to protect your country, knowing when to protect your Constitution, knowing when to protect your countrymen from the violations of and encroachments of adversaries. And those adversaries don't have to be foreign countries. They can be bad policies. They can be officials who, need a little bit more accountability. They can be mistakes of government and simple overreach and things that should never have been tried or that went wrong. When you look at the actions that I've taken, when you look at the carefulness of the programs that have been disclosed, when you look at the way this has all been filtered through the most trusted journalistic institutions in America, when you look at the way the government has had a chance to chime in on this and to make their case, and when you look at the changes that it's resulted in, we've had the first open federal court to ever review these programs declare it likely unconstitutional and Orwellian. And now you see Congress agreeing that mass surveillance, bulk collection needs to end. With all of these things happening, that the government agrees all the way up to the president, again, make us stronger, how can it be said that I did not serve my government? How can it be said that this harmed the country when all three branches of government have made reforms as a result of it? But what I'm saying is not to the NSA. It's the sort of conspiratorial thinking that can emerge sometimes when we see the government has committed real and serious abuses that lead us to think they can do no good. And the government does have legitimate programs and legitimate purposes, and they can do great things. The NSA can as well. I think it's important to remember that people don't set their lives on fire. They don't say goodbye to their families, actually pack up without saying goodbye to their families. They don't walk away from their extraordinarily comfortable lives. I mean, I made a lot of money for a guy with no high school diploma. And burn down everything they love for no reason. I think no American could be prohibited from coming home or traveling anywhere else without feeling a sense of loss. But again, I may have lost my ability to travel, but I've gained the ability to go to sleep at night and to put my head on the pillow and feel comfortable that I've done the right thing, even when it was the hard thing. And I'm comfortable with that.
In concluding this video, let me just say this. The more the government controls everything we do and everything we think and say, the more evident it will become as they block more and more videos that we post. And I'm not just talking myself. I'm talking people who post things on the internet that are contradictory to what this New World Order subject is about, which is compliance, conformity, subjugation. And the more they can do that to us, and the more they can control what we say and how we even think. The government already knows everything about you. They already know how to control you. They know what you're going to think before you think it. They know what you're going to say before you say it. And that's a very, very dangerous situation to be in when you know that your life, your privacy, everything about you is actually being scrutinized and listened to by the government. And that's also the National Security Administration, too, because they have those big mega computers that record every single conversation you make on your cell phone. Even if you don't have it turned on, they can still listen to you. And that's the reason why for this video is to tell people he knew that was happening and he came public with it. And guess what the government did? They hunted him, they harassed him, they ostracized him. They tried to say you've committed the greatest heinous act in American history by having told the American people what we're doing. And all he did was to tell everybody the truth. The government is Big Brother. And if you don't see that, folks, then you're the stupid one. So whatever happens to you anyway, it's your own fault because you didn't listen.
Long live Big Brother. Long live Big Brother. Long live Big Brother. Long live Big Brother. Long live Big Brother.